Hello to all. I know that many people are experiencing problems with AMD 5000 series graphics cards. I was no exception in this case. More than a year ago, I bought an AMD 5600 XT video card from Gigabyte. Like many, in my case, the problem lied in random crashes during games. I could play and suddenly see a green screen, after which the computer, of course, would restart. At the same time, the temperatures of the processor and the video card were absolutely normal, and the resource consumption of the game had no effect on the frequency of crashes. Also, the crashes were completely random in time. I could play for a week without any problems, or I could experience a crash 20 minutes after the start of the game. A couple of times the crash happened not in games even, but just while browsing Google Maps. Of course, after first crashes, I started to seek information about these crashes, and there is really a lot of information and advice on the internet regarding such problems. Some people blame the processor, some blame the RAM, some blame the GPUs, and I think that in most cases with such problems, I mean random crashes during only games, almost all of the time, it's the video card you should blame. And firstly, fix the settings of GPUs. However, a year ago I did not know this and tried a lot of ways to solve the problem, and none of which worked. I, for example, disabled DOCP, C-states, processor overclocking, reinstalled BIOS, VBIOS, disabled game mode in Windows, changed processor power plans, changed in BIOS PCIe 4.0 to PCIe 3.0, deleted Radeon software, and used only driver without special Radeon software. Of course, I think among these methods there are a couple of useful actions that can help you, because I can't guarantee that problems with my GPU and your GPU have the same source. Updating the BIOS, for example, wouldn't do harm in any case. However, if you, like me, have tried everything you can and nothing was worked, it's time to start adjusting the frequency and voltage of your video card. I must warn you that all actions that I did with RX 5600 XT GPU card. So if you have other video card of AMD, I think that this video will also be useful for you, but the values will be slightly different based on your GPU. So for adjusting of voltage and frequency, we launch the AMD Radeon software, switch to performance tab, then select tuning, and you need to select manual tuning custom. So Radeon software will allow you to select the values that you need. You need to enable GPU tuning, then advanced control, also fan tuning and power tuning. You also may have played with VRAM tuning, but I didn't change anything in this section, so I can disable it in my case. Okay, first of all, power tuning. You enable this and set power limit to maximum. In my case, this is 20%. It doesn't mean that your GPU immediately starts to consume 20% more energy. It just means that in any cases your GPU can consume 20% more energy. So it's pretty safe to set power limit to maximum and then fan tuning. Fan tuning, it is not necessary to change something in this section, but you can change if you want to. So in my case, I disabled 0 RPM, so my video card will be more cooler, because with 0 RPM enabled, the temperature in idle can be around 50 degrees Celsius. In with 0 RPM disabled, it, as you can see, lies within 40, even less degrees Celsius. So the most important part of these settings is GPU tuning. You need to enable advanced control and then select fine tuning controls. We don't touch P1 state and P2 states. The only actions that we will have is with P3 state. The most important value is frequency in P3 state. So I noticed this advice on AMD forum, where the user have the same GPU as me, and he recommends to lower this frequency to 1600. But I don't think this much low is necessary, because in case of my vendor, which is Gigabyte, maximum boost clock is 1750 megahertz. So you need to check your vendor site, check maximum boost clock, and set the frequency in P3 state as much as recommends your vendor in maximum boost clock. I firstly also set this value in 1750, but I had crash in 2 weeks after that change, so I lower it a bit more to 1740. I think the main problem is in this setting, because for example, for my GPU, AMD software has default value for P3 state is 1780. So despite vendor recommending other value, I think the main problem is with default AMD Radeon software settings. You can also a little bit undervolt your GPU. For example, if I correctly remember, default voltage for P3 state by Radeon software is 940. I lowered it a little bit to 900, and it was all okay since then. Okay, it's all settings with Windows, but I also have a second operational system, which is Arch Linux. So let's switch to Arch, and I'll show how to do the same settings, but in terminal, because Linux usually hasn't Radeon software GUI. Okay, now let's talk about GPU settings on Linux. I use Arch Linux, by the way, and on Arch Linux I'm the GPU driver I used mostly. So these settings are applied to AMD GPU driver. Okay, the most important settings of your GPU card is stored in sys class DRAM, card 0, device, and so on. Card 0 is applied to my computer. In your case, it can be card 1 or something like that. It depends on your computer. So let's check the first file. It's pp or the clock voltage. If you don't see all these settings, it's most likely because in your system manual settings of your GPU doesn't activate it. So let's activate this. To activate manual settings of your GPU, you need to change your kernel parameters. So I use refined as my loader, but if you use grub, you need to check how to change kernel parameters in grub. In refined, it is simple. You need to change file boot refined linux.com. So you open refined linux configuration, and you need to add AMD GPU pp feature mask equals 0xFF. It allows to manually change settings of your GPU video card. And after you add this kernel parameter to refined configuration, save this file and restart your computer. After this, if you again open file with settings of your GPU card, you'll see something like that. So in first section, the SCLK is minimum frequency of your video card and maximum. Next, it's memory frequency, and after that is P states, similar as I have shown in Windows 0, 1, and 2. In Windows there were P1, P2, and P3. And the third section shows boundaries of each setting, so SCLK can change in Z diapason and so on. So you can look at these settings and can apply them to your GPU. Okay, this file stores voltages which are used by your GPU. Next file, important to us, is power dpm force performance level. This file stores the regime of work of your GPU, auto or manual. Next file is power1 cap max. It's the one file that we won't be changed, because that file stores the maximum value of power that your GPU can consume. So basically it 20% up by default, as it was in Windows. And file power1 cap stores the current power cap of your GPU. In my case, because I already have applied all the settings, it equals to maximum power cap. The next thing you should do is to change the settings to those that you want to. You can just echo these values to files in sys class DRAM and so on. So for example, echo manual to change auto settings to manual settings, change P state 3, like in Linux this is VC2, frequency and voltage. Confirm all changes and change maximum value of frequency. In my case this is 1740, and also change the power cap. But if you do like this, you should check is your system saves these settings on restart, because in my case these settings weren't stored after restart of the system. So I create the script which would launch on the start of the system. I created file AMD GPU settings as hash, which basically contains commands you can also print in terminal, like echo manual and so on and so on. After that, copy this file to user bin. You can check if the file are copied correctly. In my case all is okay. And after that you need to do sudo chmod +x to that file to do file executable AMD GPU settings as hash. So next thing we're gonna do is to execute this file each time we start the system. If you use systemd, you need to create file libsystemd system AMD GPU settings service. This file contains information for service in systemd. So basically the two important rows is wants modprobe AMD GPU service. This row means that our service will start only after service AMD GPU is active. So firstly AMD GPU driver starts after our service applies our changes to settings. And exact start is user bin AMD GPU settings as hash. This one script we start with bin bash. Okay, after that we copy our service to the systemd system AMD GPU settings, change the rights to this file, and we can start our service and our settings will be applied already, and after that enable to start our service in the each time we start our system. So after you do this, you can check, for example, if voltages is applied. So if these voltages are the same as you printed in file AMD GPU settings, that it's OK. I leave all the information you need on the GitHub. You can check the link below. Hope you fix your GPUs. Good luck with that. Goodbye.